What is going on, guys? Flossy here. Today I have a video dubbed Titanfall, the good, the bad, and the Flossy. And what that means is, in today's video, I'm going to be going over the good things about Titanfall, the bad things about Titanfall, and the Flossy. What does Flossy mean? That means I'm going to be going over what is distinctively different and unique that sets Titanfall apart from everything else out there, like Halo, Battlefield, Call of Duty, things of that nature. Now, I have played the game a good bit since launch. I've already prestiged, if you will, once, and I've played the campaign on both sides of the war, so I have a pretty good idea as to how the gameplay is, how the game runs, and everything about the game in general. So let's go ahead and jump into the good section. The first thing I definitely have to mention about it being good is that it runs fantastic. Everything is so fluid, so smooth. The gameplay, the matchmaking, everything works very, very well. It runs extremely smoothly. Now, I have heard there have been some issues with frame rate across PC on specific graphics cards and occasionally on the Xbox One. I personally haven't had any of that happen to me yet. So far from my personal experience, everything is running absolutely fantastic. Next thing I want to mention is the netcode, aka hit registration, is phenomenal. Now, this was the same situation in the beta. I knew this would be the case with the source engine, and that doesn't fail whatsoever when it comes to the final released game. The netcode is fantastic. You won't be dying around any walls in Titanfall. Next thing I'm going to throw in the good list is that the gameplay is very balanced. Yes, you've heard it before, the Titans and the pilots have a very good balancing act going over, and I'll go over that in a minute. But what I mainly mean is the abilities slash perks, weapons, all things of that nature, the actual weapon customization and everything is all very balanced. Everything fits its own role and works well together and against each other. So yeah, it's very balanced. Next thing I want to mention, which isn't particularly important to me, but I'm going to go ahead and throw it in the good list anyways, is the game is very accessible. It's very easy to just pick up Titanfall and play. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you can pick it up and instantly be good at it. While it is distinctively similar to Call of Duty in a few ways, you can't just pick up the controller and do well instantly. You can't play Titanfall like you do Call of Duty or any other game of that nature. Next thing I want to mention, now that we're talking about Call of Duty, is that Titanfall is very, very fast-paced, and it's fun. It has a very large fun factor going into it. This is one game that, while you might not be able to pick up the controller and instantly do good, you can pick up the controller and instantly have fun. Next thing that is personal to me that I'm very glad they added, I'm going to throw in the good list, is that there is a prestige system. It's called Generations. Once you reach level 50, you're able to regenerate and go back to level 1. You get a nice little emblem that shows that you have regenerated, and it's basically just the Call of Duty prestige system, and I'm very, very glad that they have added that into the game, and that is going to definitely boost up the replay value for Titanfall. Next thing I want to talk about is that there is a very large number of maps and a very good map variety for a vanilla game. 15 maps is pretty good for a game at launch, and all of the maps are distinctively different. There are a few maps that are in the same general area, such as, I think there's 2 maps that resemble you being on a moon, and there's 2 or 3 maps resemble you being on some sort of Mars-like planet. But at the same time, the actual level design is varied well enough to make each map distinctively different. Next up, while the source engine doesn't have the greatest of textural graphics, they do have a very keen eye to detail. All of the environments and all of the buildings have a very large eye for detail. There's lots of debris, couches, household appliances, things of that nature scattered around all the interiors of the buildings, and it just adds to immerse you into the game. Last thing I want to add on the good list is that Respawn is very clearly listening to community feedback. They're already talking about adding new game modes in. They've already mentioned that they're going to be adding consistent free DLC as well as the paid DLC to the game, and anytime that the developer listens to the community is a rare and very welcome addition to the game in itself. So that is the list of all the good things that Titanfall has going for it. It certainly does have a lot of good things going for it. However, it's not perfect. It does have a couple of issues, and we're going to get to that in the bad section now. The first bad thing is that at launch there are no private matches slash leaderboards, things of that type. Now, Respawn has confirmed that this is going to come out in a free DLC here shortly. There's no official release date, but that is hopefully going to be fixed here in the next week or so. Now, there's also no map voting system, but I believe that was purposely taken out so that all players can go through all the maps. The next thing on the bad list is there's kind of a lack of original game modes. Now, don't get me wrong, it does have all the classic game modes, CTF, TDM, domination, all of that is in there, but there's nothing that really caters specifically towards Titanfall's gameplay besides the gameplay itself. Call of Duty Halo, you typically have game modes that are made specifically for that game, and really that game is the only thing that would really work for that game mode, and Titanfall doesn't have that. It's not a personal issue towards me, but I do feel I would understand why some people would find that as a problem. The next bad thing is that it's not necessarily good or bad, it's just kind of odd. There's an odd weapon selection / weapon count in the game. It's not like Halo or Call of Duty. Now there are less weapons than your typical shooter. There's, I believe, 31 across pilots and titans in Titanfall, but it's not where Halo, where you have the sniper, the shotgun, the SMG, but it's also not like Call of Duty or Battlefield or something where you have 3 or 4 different weapons for each actual weapon category. It's like you have 1 shotgun, but then you have 2 SMGs, and then you have 2 assault rifles, but you only have 1 bolt-action sniper, and it's kind of odd. I feel like they could have done a little bit better if either they would have taken out some weapons and made every single gun distinctively different, like Halo, or make it like the other typical first-person shooters where you just have 3 or 4 of each type of weapon. The next thing on the list is that campaign does not dive into the storyline at all. I was really excited to see how the atmosphere and storyline would be explained in this, and the campaign definitely doesn't do that. Like I've said, I've played through both sides of the campaign, IMC and Militia, and at the end you literally have no idea what's going on, besides the fact that the Militia and IMC are at war, and you really don't get anything else out of it. Yeah, it's fun, but it's also just kind of multiplayer. There's really no difference. You have the first little cutscene right before it happens, and you have some unique battle chatter depending on what side you're on. But other than that, there's really no character development or storytelling whatsoever, and it's kind of a shame. I didn't expect much, to be honest, but it is kind of a shame that it wasn't all too successful. The next thing is that it's not necessarily Titanfall's fault, but I'm going to go ahead and throw this in the bad list anyways. It is not revolutionary. Titanfall is not this crazy next-gen game that's going to revolutionize FPS forever, like a lot of people gave it. I'm not sure why this hype was surrounding Titanfall. I don't believe that Titanfall deserved all this hype, and that, while, don't get me wrong, it's a very good, very well-made and polished game, but it's certainly nothing just completely out of the blue and is going to change gaming forever. And it's kind of a shame that Titanfall got this idea in people's heads. I don't believe it tried to do that on purpose. The next thing is that it appears that there's not skill-based matchmaking. I've heard a couple other people talking about this, and you just don't see it. Now, there is matchmaking and it works fine, but me and my friends who have already prestiged and whatnot are still coming into games with level 1s, level 11s and stuff, and it doesn't seem like there's any skill-based matchmaking going on there. Now, that might just be because the game's brand new and there's still a lot of people going out and getting it, and obviously they're going to be level 1. So we'll see how that works in the end, but as of right now, it doesn't look like there's any skill-based matchmaking. The final thing on the bad list that I'm going to put down, I'm not fanboying or anything, trust me. I honestly believe that it's a shame that Titanfall is not on PS4. Now, I've heard the reason for this is because Sony doesn't want to sign in and go to cloud computing like Microsoft is, so that you can essentially have dedicated servers across all games. And because Sony didn't want to do that, Respawn Entertainment went ahead and said, okay, you know, we're going to go with Microsoft and PC. That's just what I heard. I could be wrong there. But whatever the reason, it is a shame that PS4 isn't going to get this. I feel like it would be a lot better for Respawn, a lot better for Titanfall 2, and it would just, I mean, it would be good for the PS4 players. Titanfall is definitely a well-made, well-polished game. So now that we've gone over the good things about Titanfall, the bad things about Titanfall, let's jump into the Flossy. What sets Titanfall apart from all the other big guys out there? Battlefield, Call of Duty, Halo. Well, first off, is definitely going to be, well, the Titans. Now, there's been mechs in games before, but never to the extent that they are in Titanfall. Like, certainly with how maneuverable and versatile the mechs are in Titanfall. And they're really not a mech. A Titan is, while it is a hulking mech, it is definitely different from all the other mechs that have ever been in games, and it's literally just an extension of the pilot, as they've said. The next thing that sets Titanfall apart is this balancing act that the Titans have with the pilots. In no other game do you have these enormous 20'4" hulking creatures roaming around the map, and at the very same time have these little simple foot soldiers that can all coexist within one another and against each other, and it definitely sets Titanfall apart in that gameplay aspect. The next thing is the fact that NPCs, grunts, and specters are in the game, and while there's in the game before, they've never served this much of a purpose, and they've never really fit their role before. In Titanfall, they certainly do. They add a massive sense to scale, and they suit their purpose very well, especially with the different point system that they have going on, and it feels consistently fast-paced and large-scale despite the fact only being 6v6, and it just works very, very well. The next thing that makes Titanfall different is, while, like I said, it's not revolutionary, it does combine the tried and true with the refreshing and new. Everything from Titanfall we have seen in other games before, but never put together this well and this polished off, and it definitely feels good and different among a lot of the other games out there. Next thing that sets Titanfall apart is its seamless launch. Despite all these other games lately, GTA 5 Online, Battlefield 4, having these just awful launches, Titanfall has stood against it and has released fantastically. Now, like I said, it does have a little bit of lack of content here and there, but as for how the game works, that's the thing, is that it works, and that is a rare thing nowadays. Next thing is the cloud computing that I was talking about, which basically makes the servers dedicated. It's using Microsoft Azure servers, and this, while not specifically towards Titanfall, is just a really good opportunity. We know that this is working now, that this works, and this means it's going to open up opportunity for all the other games in the future. The next thing that sets Titanfall apart is its map design. Now, like I said, the maps are specifically made for both Titans and pilots to maneuver around each other, which means there's a lot of verticality. In no other game do you have these 3, 4, 5 stories of levels within one map that are all distinctively different from one another and allow these two completely different creatures to coexist with one another. The next thing is, while the campaign multiplayer for Titanfall isn't necessarily successful, it is a very cool idea and can hopefully be pulled off in either the next Titanfall game or in another game that decides to adopt this idea. And then the last thing that is unique about Titanfall is that it brings back the simplicity. Titanfall is a very, very simple game. It has relatively few guns, relatively few perks, and in my opinion, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Simplicity was the beauty of games back in the day, like Halo 2, Halo 3, Call of Duty 4, everything like that. That's what was beautiful about it, is that it was simple and fun. And in the end, that's really what a game comes down to, is being fun. And that's definitely where Titanfall succeeds more than anything else. All in all, guys, I think Titanfall is a great game and a must-own for any multiplayer FPS fan. It truly earns Respawn a well-deserved seat at the table. Despite a lack of content, depending on your perspective, it is extremely fun and polished to near perfection. How Respawn supports the game will ultimately decide its lifespan. I really hope that they do support it with consistent feedback and DLC, because I am absolutely loving the game. But yeah, guys, that is it for today's video. I know it was a long one, but I hope you stayed through all of it. I hope you enjoyed, and thanks for watching. If you did enjoy, feel free to leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below. I'm going to go play some more Titanfall now, so until next time, stay flossy out there.